Welcome back, Gems, to another wonderful episode of the Grateful Gem podcast. I am your host, Jasmine Shannelle, and today we are talking about what is your why. So stick around because gems are definitely about to be dropped and you don't want to miss out, so stay tuned. I need everyone listening to this podcast episode to follow us on Instagram at the Grateful Gem Pod, and also follow me at Jasmine Shannelle. Don't worry, I spelled everything out and left it in the notes below. Take a look. See you there. Now let's get into this episode. What's going on, Gems? I am so excited to be here today recording this episode because it has been a long time coming, you guys. And for one, I just want to say sorry for the wait. It has been a long time coming. I think the last episode I did was like last year, which was in December. We're in March. So it's been a little minute. I've honestly been trying to get back on and talk to you guys and encourage you guys, but it's just been so crazy. As you guys know, I just had my baby last month. He is a month and some days old now. So I've been really busy with him, and then I hadn't really had the time to record because, again, I was so sick during my pregnancy, and I just wasn't motivated. I just didn't have the energy. So with that being said, here I am today, and I have honestly been trying to record this episode for a while, so I'm so thankful that I have time right now. Hopefully my son does not wake up, but I have time right now to go ahead and put this out there and get it to you guys, and we can get through this together, because honestly, this is definitely something that I am figuring out, and something that has been brought to my attention within the last year or so. And I've been just trying to dive into it and figure out, what is my why? What does why look like for me? And some people think that, your why and your purpose are the same. However, I do want to encourage you and let you know that your why and your purpose is not the same. Once you understand that your why and your purpose aren't the same, you'll understand how to differentiate between the two. So basically, your why is the reason you do the things you do, like maybe for your family, to prove something to someone or yourself, or it's basically your motivation that gets you through whatever it is you're doing, your job, a project, just your daily routine. That's your why. You wake up and you say, okay, you may not want to do it. For instance, for your job, you may not want to do it, but you get up and you do it because maybe you have to pay your bills and nobody's going to pay your bills for you. You know what I'm saying? So what is your why? And your passion or your purpose is your mission in life. It might be your work. It might be whatever you're contributing to others, your art or creations, or, what is your purpose? What is your passion? What do you desire from life? So your purpose and your why are two separate things. And I think a lot of times people get that confused and they don't really understand the difference between the two. So hopefully that information gives you some insight on how to differentiate between your why and your purpose. So again, this is something that I'm going through as well. Just trying to figure out where I am at in my life, trying to figure out what exactly is my why and what exactly is my purpose. To be honest, I've been trying to figure out what my purpose has been for the longest. I have friends that know their purpose, they know their why, or they may know their why and don't know their purpose. But either way it goes, I have people that, that know what their why is. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to say I don't know what my why is. I do know what my why is. I know why I do what I do, especially now. And I can say that it's safe to say that your why will change. It definitely changed for me after I got pregnant, because in the beginning, it was a matter of I have to pay my bills to live. Nobody's going to pay my bills for me. And you wake up and you do, or I wake up and I do what I do because I want to make sure that I'm successful. I want to make sure that I'm being productive and that I'm having a productive day. But now, because my life has changed, having a child, my why looks different. So now my why is I wake up and I do what I do for my son. It's no more about, what I want to do, in terms of, just the way that I used to look at things. It's like, oh, I could do this, but why? You know what I'm saying? So now it's like, okay, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it wholeheartedly. If not, then don't waste your time, because I feel like at this point in my life, I don't have time to waste on endeavors and careers or in stuff that's not going to benefit me, because it not only benefits me, but it benefits my son. So I want to make sure that at all cost, or at all means necessary, that I'm always going to be able to provide for him, and I'm always going to be able to create something that keeps him in mind. So that's my why. For the last couple of years, I've honestly been praying about what exactly my purpose is in life. I know that like when I was younger, when I worked at like a lot of different jobs, I would just talk to people about, my faith. And I would talk to people about the things that I went through or the things that I would do in life. Like when I moved to Atlanta, a lot of people just thought this was like so big. And I really didn't understand it, because I'm like, this is something that I want to do. I'm praying that God will allow me to do this. And if he gives me that opportunity to do it, I hope I make him proud. And I hope that I'm able to stay. And I hope that I'm able to do something that, I wasn't able to do before. And so I used to tell people, like when I worked at Citibank, before I even decided to move, once I was praying about it, and then once I decided, I let like a few people know, like in our little circle at work, and people used to be like, that's crazy. Like, I could never do that. I could never just leave my family and move somewhere where I don't have somebody. And, you just work really hard to do that. I was working 2 full-time jobs at the time, and it got to be a bit much, but I knew why I did it. I knew I wanted to move there. I knew that's what I had been praying for. I knew that I believed that God was going to allow me to go to Atlanta. So I did those things because I wanted to make sure that happened. So, back then my why was different then, so your why will change over time. So, don't ever feel like, oh, my why was this yesterday and I was this today. That may be your case. Everybody's why is different. It changes different. Your life is different. Nobody looks at each other. We don't all have the same life. We may have a few attributes that look alike, but we are 2 different people, and people can be on the same path but still be going separate ways. So your why may not look like my way, but one thing is your purpose. Your purpose, I'm not going to say it should never change, but your purpose really shouldn't change. Unless God is calling you to something greater, it may possibly change, but even still, God will still use your purpose in wherever you're going. So even if your job changes, even if your friendships change, even if your relationships change, your purpose should still be the same. And again, that's just something that I have not really figured out. And I got sidetracked, but back to the story with the whole Citibank thing. Just talking to people, basically my testimony, and just telling people will always ask me like, what made you do that? Why did you do that? And I would tell them, it's because I wanted to live life. I wanted to let people know that I trusted God, and that because I was so young, I think it was a matter of I was young, so young, and my faith was so big. Like, I believed God for so many things. I prayed a lot, and a lot of young people and a lot of older people really didn't have that. And so people will always tell me at work, like, I admire you. You don't mind talking about God. You don't mind sharing your story. Like, you don't know how empowering that is. You don't know what that means for somebody who's ready to give up. And I just was like, okay, I'm glad it helped you. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I really didn't do anything. I'm just telling you, what I've been through and how God has shown up for me and how he can show up for everybody else. And that just always shocked me. Like, people always admire those stories. Like, anywhere I went, at every job, literally, people would always just be like, I really admire your faith and the fact that you believe in God and you don't let anybody steer you away from that. And I never really understood it, because I'm like, don't we all feel like this about God? Like, don't we all have a story? But, sometimes we don't. Sometimes people believe in God or they know God, but they don't have that relationship, or they feel like they don't have that story or that testimony, or, that moment where it's just like, I'm proud of myself for having that same faith. And I think a lot of people nowadays are kind of afraid to talk about God. And so me, it's just habit, it comes up in all my conversations because that just shows you how much God has shown up for me. And like I tell other people, he's shown up for you. Even if you don't see it now, you'll see it later because he's definitely there. He's definitely, helping you along the way. And if he wasn't in your life, you wouldn't still be here. And you're not done with your purpose yet because you still breathing. You wake up every morning by the grace of his mercy. So anyways, that got kind of long-winded, but basically I'm just telling you guys that I don't really understand my purpose. And that's something that I've been praying for a while and trying to figure out, God, what is my life mission on this earth? Is it just to tell my testimony to people to bring them closer to you? Is it to encourage people in having stronger faith? Like what exactly is my purpose? So that's what I want to kind of touch on today and try to help you figure out if that is something that you are kind of struggling with or battling with, trying to figure out, what is your passion, what is your purpose, and what is your why. Again, your why and your job does not have to be linked. It's possible you don't currently love your job, but you do it for your why. Like I said, because you have to pay your bills and you wake up. You may have been on the job for years that it's just not serving you anymore. You just literally wake up and you do it and you go home. You may not even like it, but you do it because you know that if you don't have this job, that you can't do or accomplish other things in your life. You can't pay your bills. You can't go out and have fun. You can't take your vacations, whatever that looks like for you. So I think understanding your why will be really easy, but it's just trying to figure out your purpose and your passion is where you may kind of lack, because it's kind of hard looking at yourself from someone else's perspective. As a matter of fact, you can't do that because you're not someone else. You're you. You can look at yourself in the mirror, but you still won't see the very thing that other people see in you. So it's going to be hard trying to figure out, what is my purpose? How can I look at myself and figure out what my purpose is? But what I encourage you to do and what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to pray. I'm thinking about doing a 4-day or a 3-day fast this week, just for praying for clarity and my purpose and some endeavors that I have on my mind and shifts in my life that I'm praying that God will give me insight on. And I pray that if you're in a place where, you may not be happy, or you may just need clarity, or you may need understanding because you're not really familiar with what God's doing. If you need that clarity or that reassurance from God, then I suggest that you fast and pray and seek him. And, and if you aren't good with being consistent, then I really, really, really encourage you to get an accountability partner. Someone that's going to keep you accountable and someone who's going to make sure that you're doing what you say you're going to do. Because most of the times, honestly, it can be really hard staying on the right track, especially if you're someone that gets distracted, or if you're a person that just has a lot going on. You may not do it on purpose. A lot of times things happen and we don't do it on purpose, but it just happens. So if you know that's you, then I highly suggest getting an accountability partner and making sure that you let them know that you're serious about doing this, you want to know, and that you need them to hold you accountable to make this happen. I really think that will really help you through your journey. And if that's something you want to do, then I say definitely go for it. Excuse me. What else? But I think that with understanding your why and understanding your purpose, it ties back into your life. It also explains where you're at in your life, why you're there, and where you're trying to go. For instance, me, I've realized that I want to do more than just work at corporate America and just be at a job where I feel stagnant, or where I get to a point where I feel like I'm just robotic and I just wake up and do the same thing every day. For me, I need a challenge and I need something that I can look forward to. And now I think I look at my life differently, again, because I have a child now, and I don't want to be in a negative headspace around him. Like, I don't want to go to work and then come home and I'm too in a bad mood to do anything. And I see that a lot of times. And even with my parents, when I was younger, my dad was a workaholic. And I honestly know that's where I get, my workaholic spirit from. But he was a workaholic. He worked on the weekends. He worked on weekdays as well. But I realized that I really don't want that to be my life. I don't want to miss out on my child's life just because I have to pay bills or just because I have to make ends meet. I'm in a place where now I'm looking at my finances closely and I'm saving now and I'm paying off debt and trying to make sure that I set myself up for success so that my son has it and that I understand what I'm doing so that when it's time for me to explain it to my son on how to keep himself in check, how to get a good credit score, how to clear out debt if he has any, how to budget, how to save. I'm doing better at that each and every day so that when that time's come, I can give him the knowledge that he needs. Because if we're honest, a lot of times, we grow up and we don't get that. If it's not being taught in school, or if you don't have a person that really care about you enough, or not even really care about you enough, let me take that back. But if you don't have a person who really does that and understand it, it's going to be hard to find that information. And for me, I didn't have someone that knew about credit or that knew about saving and, all of that good stuff. But I was really good about saving at one point in my life when I was dedicated to doing something. And I was really good at, monitoring and getting my credit together. And that's why I'm trying to get back on that. And I'm really doing a great job, and I'm proud of myself because it's hard work. Sometimes I just want to give up, but I remember why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my son. I eventually want to buy a house. So it's like, in order for me to do that, I have to take the steps necessary to make sure I can do those things, And if something was to happen, I want to be able to lean back on my savings and not be like, oh man, I have to hurry up and just get any kind of job, versus before that's how I was. If I, lost a job or left a job, and it's like you just get anything because you're kind of desperate. So when you're in a sense of you have things lined up, you can do a little more, and be confident and secure in what it is that you're doing. So I think that's another reason why it's so important to understand your why, because once you understand your why, you'll understand a little bit more about your purpose, because the reason that you're doing it will help you see a little bit insight into why and what your purpose is of why you're doing it. So I think that that's really important, and it'll help you along the way if you have that mindset of, waking up literally every day and saying, why do I do this? And I know sometimes, self-consciously you ask yourself that, like, why do I put up with this job? Why do I put up with this relationship? Why do I put up with my friends? Why do I put up with my family? Why do I have these routines? Why do I do what I do? And once you start looking at it closely, you'll get a better understanding of why you actually do those things. And I know that we do it all the time, because I ask myself, like, I don't know why I put myself through this, or I don't know why I do this, but that's just how I am. And then once you realize that, you'll understand, like, I do this for a reason. Once you figure out those reasons, I say write them down or put them on a sticky note somewhere so that you never forget. But again, remember that your why can always change because your life changes. So don't get too caught up on, my why looks different from last year, or my why looks different from last week, because your life changes every day. Every day there's something different about your day. So your why can change constantly, but it's your purpose that should be steadfast and consistent in your life. And that's the part where you have to really get in tune with yourself, pray about it, and just ask other people as well. Ask them what they think about you, or what do they like about you. And sometimes people will really tell you certain things, and that will help you understand what your purpose is. I think that's how, with me, I get a little bit of insight of what my purpose is in my life. Are you loving this episode? Great. Don't forget to leave your feedback by rating and leaving a review on Apple iTunes. Also, don't forget to subscribe anywhere, wherever you're listening to this podcast. And make sure that you follow us on Instagram to keep up in the know of what's going on with the podcast. Okay, let's get back to the episode. So I hope that, understanding your why and your purpose kind of makes sense. If this is something that you've been kind of battling with, even if you haven't really thought about what your why is, I'm sure you think about, what is my purpose? Like, God, what am I supposed to be doing? Because like I said, this is something that I'm going through right now, and I think I'm taking it a little bit more serious now, again, because I am a mother and I have a child, and my life depends on him, and his life depends on me. So I want to be able to set up a legacy and set up my son for greatness, because being honest, when I was younger, I didn't have that. I had to work really, really hard and go through a lot of trials, tribulations, to get this knowledge and understanding of credit and money and how life works. And not saying that my son is not going to do that, because he is. Nothing's going to come easy to anybody. But I want to be able to be there and educate him on a lot of things that he may have questions about, or a lot of things that he may not even know about. But I want to have that knowledge, because I know how imperative it was for me not knowing it and having to learn it on my own. So if I can help him, and not even just him, because I help my sister too, when it comes to just credit and money and saving and stuff like that, if she has questions, and a lot of stuff that I have knowledge in, it's not because I woke up and I knew it. It was because I tried it, and I had a lot of trial and errors in my time with those scenarios. So if I can save someone time, then I'm all about that. And at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do. You can give the advice, and everybody's not going to take it, and that's perfectly fine. But I want to be able to help somebody, because again, it took me years to understand all of these things and understand, why I had to do the things that I do. And I think that's very important. So the last thing, again, that I want to tell you, and advice I want to give you, is that if you're not really sure what your purpose is or why God has you where you are, I highly suggest doing a fast for the end of this week. Even if you want to do like a 7-day fast, a 4-day fast, a 3-day fast, whatever you're comfortable with, I really say go for it. Because for one, God will definitely show up. 2, God will definitely give you clarity. 3, God will definitely give you answers. And be patient, because sometimes you may get an answer very quickly, versus on the day after that, you may not get an answer as fast. But God may be showing you things around. So what I also would pray is that you would take the time to ask God to let you take a step back to see what it is that He's showing you, and open your eyes and ears to hear and see what's being shown to you. Because sometimes I know with me, I'll pray the same thing over and over and still be confused. I'm just be honest. I literally pray the same things over and over sometimes, and I pray again for clarity. And God doesn't get tired of that. God doesn't get aggravated with that. If He wants you to make every step with Him in mind. So if you want to do something, or if you need clarity on it and you're not sure of the answer, don't be afraid to continuously ask God, because He will continuously show up, and He will continuously confirm what it is that He has called over your life. So I want to take a couple of moments just to look at what the Bible says about purpose. And with a few scriptures, we look at Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. So to be honest, this really sums up our why. This is our why. We want to be able to have a future of hope and have a future of what God has for us. And sometimes our life may not look like what we think God has for us, but sometimes it's aligned. I'm not going to say sometimes, all the time, it's aligned with what God had in mind for us. You may not 100% be where He's called you to be, but everything that we go through in life is planned. Every obstacle that we go through is destined. God is there in the midst of it. Even if it hurts, even if it's painful, even if it's happy, even if it's sad, God is there. And there's a reason for the seasons that you go through. There's a lesson behind everything. So again, I would advise you just to open your eyes and your ears to hear and to see what God is showing you. If we look at Romans 8:28, it says, and we know that, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose. So basically, our purpose is God's purpose. Our life purpose, to be honest, in each and every one of us, is to bring people closer to God. But you have to take that deeper and say, how do I do that? And it's not going out and just, you probably like, I ain't finna be no Jehovah Witness. I ain't going knocking on nobody's door. That may not be your calling. Your calling may just be similar to mine, to just talk and just have conversation with people. It doesn't come up intentionally. Sometimes we just go there and sometimes I'm just telling the story of my life to people, and they see how God has shown up, or they understand what God did. And sometimes things happen and you'll literally say, this was nobody but God. And sometimes you won't see that, and people will say, that's nobody but God. Like, God really blessed you. God really showed you and showed up for you. And I want that for me. So it may not be knocking on doors and passing out flyers, but it just may be being yourself. And sometimes I think that scares a lot of people, because we think, oh, we just supposed to be these holy, sanctified people out here living these perfect lives. First of all, nobody is perfect. We're all sinners. And if you're not a sinner, then you're perfect and you're God, which none of us is that. So we have to remember that our goal in life, our life's mission, is to bring people closer to God. And that doesn't mean that you're perfect. They have to be perfect, but it means to let them know that God loves us the way we are, and that we can count on Him, and that He will never forsake us. He will never lie to us, and He's there, but that looks so different for everybody. And that's just like, if you ever seen the movie War Room, I don't know if you ever seen that movie, but that is one of my favorite movies. War Room, look at that lady, the real estate lady, the lady who Priscilla Shire was playing. She didn't know that she was going to be blessed in that way. She prayed about some things, and God answered her with a woman who could fight for her in prayer and fight for her family. And it wasn't just all, holy matrimony and God, Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a relationship, and she was there just to help her. And in doing that, by being herself, she was able to, fight harder for her marriage and see what God was doing in her life. And that's what I'm saying. Like, everybody's purpose is different, or it looks different, but it's overall the same. But it's just a matter of, what does that look like for you? So I pray that this gave you some insight on what your why is and what your purpose is. And if you're battling with your career, if you're battling with identity issues, if you're battling just with anything right now that makes you wonder, God, why am I going through this? God, what's going on? What did I do to deserve to be here? Why are you showing me this? Why am I still hurting? Why am I still in pain? Why do I feel so empty? Why do I not feel fulfilled? I really suggest that you take the time out to understand what your why is and what your purpose is. Because, to be honest with you guys, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys, as I always do. When I first got pregnant, that was something that I battled with. I couldn't understand why that had happened to me. I couldn't understand what God was trying to tell me. I couldn't understand why I had been what I felt was forsaken. I didn't know, I didn't feel worthy of being a mom. And to this day, I sit here and I pray over my son. I pray about him all the time, because I'm like, I pray every day for this baby that I didn't even know this blessing really, that I didn't even know I needed. But since he was here, I was going to pray over him, and I was going to pray over me, because in my mind, it was like, I felt abandoned. I felt alone. I didn't understand, God, why is this happening? What did I do so bad to deserve this? This is terrible. And then, things weren't going great with me and my son's father. We weren't really seeing eye to eye. We were kind of arguing and fighting and stuff like that. And family members, it was just aggravating. It was just a lot, and I kept telling myself and asking myself, literally up until the day I gave birth to my son, why is this happening to me? God, why do I feel like you've left me? I feel like I'm praying for things and they're not coming to pass. I feel like you're not answering me. You've left me. I'm alone. I can't hear you. Why? What is the purpose of this? And that's why, I thought that this was a great topic, because I remember journaling, and I kept telling myself, I'm not happy. Here I am carrying this blessing, because children are a blessing. But here I am carrying this blessing that I didn't even know I needed. I don't really understand it. I'm having a rough pregnancy. The devil's playing with my mind. I'm playing in my mind. And again, my pregnancy was terrible. I was sick up until literally the day after I gave birth. I was still sick after I gave birth to him. Still going through a lot of stuff. Still had a lot of pregnancy symptoms up until like 2 weeks ago. It hasn't been 6 weeks yet since I had him. But I'm still recovering. Sometimes, to be honest, I still sit here and I'm like, Lord, like, what's going on? I'm having a moment today. Sometimes I get emotional because at some point, to be honest, I still don't feel worthy for my son. I look at him and I'm like, why did God bless me with this child? And why is he everything that I prayed for? I prayed about just having a child that I could be patient with, because I don't have a lot of patience and I don't want to take my anger out on my child because I can't be patient. And so my child he's really relaxed. He's calm. Sometimes he gets a little fussy, but it's not nothing overbearing. He's just relaxed. He's so sweet. Like, he's just chill. And I thank God for that every day, because that's what I pray for. I pray that, God, please don't give me more than I can handle, because I really don't know what I'm doing. And I'm really nervous, and my heart, and that what I need, but I'm going to pray and ask that, this child is everything that I can handle. And man, I'm telling you, when I look at my son, I just thank God every day, because I'm like, this guy here is just, he's something else. I'm telling y'all that he's a character. He's super goofy, super funny, and he's only a month and some days old, but he's super chill, and I love it. And I'm thankful. I'm so thankful, because it's just like, I pray for this. I pray for this baby every day. Even though I wasn't sure if I even wanted to keep him. I wasn't sure if I was going to be a great mom. I wasn't sure how, this would play out. But I still did the things that I needed to do. And it brings me back to, what was your why? In that moment, my why was, why am I going through this? But even though I don't understand, I'm going to continue to pray for my child, because he's coming. He's practically here. He's unborn, but he's here. So I don't want to neglect him in a way that I need to. And when he gets here, it's just this chaotic thing. I'm depressed and I'm sad, and it's just a lot. But hopefully, I hope that this helps you, because it's really important to understand that you're not late on your life. You're on your calling. God still can use you. God is using you, and everything that you're going through in your life, you're going to be able to use to help somebody else. I tell my brother that all the time. My brother is in prison for 20 years for a crime that he did about 10 to 14 years ago. I can't remember how many, but he's been locked up for a minute. But I tell him all the time, I'm like, you're going to be able to live and tell your story to other people. And people are going to know that God saved you. People are going to know that God did this to let you live, to tell this testimony. Because in this world that we live in now, these young kids need to hear this. Because you don't have a lot of people doing this. A lot of people are afraid to speak on it, or they're afraid to really say what it is that they feel, what happened to them. And a lot of people aren't even out to tell this story. So I tell them all the time, I said, God is going to use this, and he's going to use it in a way that you won't even see or understand. But when it comes, you'll know what to do. You'll know what to say. And you'll understand why you had to go through that. Because you had to help somebody else get through something that you thought was unimaginable, that you couldn't bear. But sometimes you have to go through stuff in life in order to save somebody else. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Sometimes you have to go through stuff to help somebody else, or to let somebody else know how not to do that. So anyways, as always, this got long-winded, but I really hope that you guys take heed to this. If this is something that you're battling with, just trying to figure out why you are where you are, just remember that you're not there by mistake, that God had a plan and a purpose, and he still has one over your life. And I pray that if you are fighting with that you just take time and spend time with God. Journal if that's something you do. Listen to some gospel music. Pray about it. Get godly counsel from people. Talk about it with people you trust, and let them, if you can trust their guidance, just let them speak to you and let them tell you what they feel, and then take it back to God and see what he says about it. I strongly believe that our purpose and our whys are important, and to understand that you are exactly where you're supposed to be is very important, because sometimes you want to give up. Sometimes you don't have enough strength or energy to get where you're going. But when you remember why you're going there or why you're doing it, you'll know. So I'm super, super thankful that you guys are listening, and I hope that it helps you. And I will see you on the next episode. Again, I'm sorry about this long, drawn out wait, but here I am. And I will see you on the next episode. Remember to keep shining as the gems you are. And God loves you. And take a deep breath. And I hope you have a blessed week.